Mykyta, I'm going to pass over to you, Mykyta Fastovets, from ExpoPlatform. He's the Chief Technology Officer and the co-founder. So thank you very much, Mykyta, and if you want to take it away.
Thanks, Damien. Thanks, everyone, for joining this session. Yes, as Damien has said, I'm the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder at ExpoPlatform. And today I'm going to do a little bit of a demo tour of what we've been up to and how we've been helping, I think, the industry adapt to the current conditions. And hopefully there'll be something interesting in here for everyone. The presentation is going to be split into two main parts. I'm going to do a quick tour of the relevant and interesting parts of the product. And then what I'd like to do is jump into a very short presentation about some of the monetization opportunities that we've got for sponsors and if you have exhibitors, for exhibitors on the platform. An introduction about the product overall. So we have a platform that is quite capable of taking an event from beginning to end entirely on our platform. But at the same time, it's modular to the point where if you only wanted to have certain things and you had providers for other things, you didn't have to use our platform for all of that. We slot in with a lot of different solutions at various different intervals of the event. So you can use as much or as little of the platform as you want. The sort of things that we cover, some of these things I will just mention, but I'm not going to jump in and show you because I think they're relatively ubiquitous on the market. Registration is something that we do. If you don't want to use our registration, we integrate with a large number of registration providers that are standard in the industry. We have a web CMS, and this is an example of a website here that's built using our CMS. It's a drag and drop CMS built for the purpose of creating quickly an event website. We also have mobile applications that also have the same features as our platform. We have manuals if there are exhibitor manuals that are needed for exhibitors. That's something else that we are able to provide. And probably a number of other features that I probably won't mention now. So the point where I'd like to start the demo is let's imagine that I am an attendee at the event and I've just registered. I've received my onboarding email. The email will contain whatever you set it up to be, really, plus a link that will allow me to activate my account. Once I've done that, I'll be able to select my password and I've logged into the event. So I've logged in here and I'm going to take you through what I can see as a delegate or as a participant here. So there are a couple of different pages I could potentially land on. I could land on my dashboard, depending on how the organizer has configured the event. I could land on my dashboard. This shows me a little quick overview of what's going on with my event, my participation at this event, who has interacted with my profile, how many meetings I got, what status is there in, etc. Another page I could land on is a page called recommendations. And this page is a personalized page for each person where they're being recommended different kinds of objects from the platform. So, well, from your event. Underpinning this page is an algorithm, is a recommendation engine that learns as people interact with it. It gets populated initially with data from registration, and then it will look at what people are actually browsing, who do they engage with, what content do they look at, and so on. And it will build a more and more accurate picture of their interests and what they can offer to others at the event. And these set of recommendations are unique to every person, essentially, and highly targeted. So the types of objects you can recommend here are other people here, exhibitors, products, if they've got products, speakers at the event, sessions, and news items. So most of the content that you add to your event is recommendable by our engine. And this is actually one of the things that makes us a little bit different from most of the platforms out there who focused on, if we're talking about matchmaking, they focused on just connecting one person to another. But we see an event as a much more rich environment where there are many goals and many opportunities to connect. So for example, I could connect to an exhibitor by, let's say, a product. Let's say I spot a product here that I liked from an exhibitor, just as an example, and I get interested. I could click on these products. All of this is interactive, and I'll land on a profile page of this product. And from here, I could decide that, for example, I'm interested in meeting with this exhibitor, at which point I could click the meet button. Or maybe I'm interested in finding out more information about the exhibitor itself, so I can land on their page. If they had a team, I could see who was coming from their team here, which I'll show you in a second. And I could connect with them from here as well. We have 3 standard actions across the entire platform: favorite, meet, and message. These 3 actions recur almost everywhere where the cards are output. The cards can be output in recommendation, they can be output on the website, and various other places. So let's imagine that I wanted to book a meeting with this exhibitor or sponsor. I would click meet. I would indicate the subject, put a message down. Location, one thing I didn't mention at the beginning is that our platform, while we are currently working in the online event space by necessity, actually the platform is built to work with hybrid event formats as well. So you can configure as the organizer whether you want there to be a physical component to your event or if it's just online. You can also do a completely physical event when the time comes back to us and we're able to do that. So I'm going to select online meeting here. I can take the products that I'm interested in if I want to, and then the duration of the meeting, which you configure as available. These are the days that the event is taking place. So I select one of them, and then I'll be shown times that are available for me to book a meeting for. Now, if I was in a different time zone from the event, I would be shown multiple times here. I would be shown one time that's mine and one time that's the event's time zone. But because I'm in the same time zone as the event, you don't see that here at the moment. So I select a time, the start time for the meeting, and click request meeting. Once I do that, an email is generated, again, that you configure, and the email will say something to the effect of, hi, Kevin, you've got a meeting with request from this company, or vice versa. Please click this link to action that meeting. Now, let's imagine that Kevin has never actually done anything beyond filling in the registration form on the website. He's not logged in, he's not selected his password, he's not engaged in any way. But he sees that email and he thinks, oh, that's interesting, I'll check out that meeting request. When he clicks the link that takes him to the meeting, the system will automatically activate his account, ask him to select a password, and then take him to the meeting card, where he can effectively action and say, yes, I'm interested in meeting with this party, or no, I'm not interested. So let's imagine that he said, yes, I'm interested in meeting with them. What does that look like? Of course, if we were talking about a physical meeting, I think we can all imagine what that looks like. But for an online meeting, I'll provide you an example here. So this is an example of a confirmed online meeting here. Again, because I'm in the same time zone as the event, there is no offset here. Otherwise, I would see 2 times here where we are. I can see that the meeting is happening online, who it's happening with. I can reschedule or cancel it if I want to. And I have a countdown timer here that tells me exactly when the meeting is going to take place. There's a join room button. This button becomes available 10 minutes before the meeting starts. At that point, when the meeting is due to start, all parties, so everyone who's participating in this meeting, will get an email saying that the meeting room is now open and you can join it and the meeting is about to begin. If then, for example, I join the meeting but the other party doesn't, they'll get another reminder email saying that I've joined and I'm waiting for them in the meeting room, but they haven't joined. So those are a couple of ways in which we make sure that people show up for meetings. Because I'm doing a demo, I've got a little join demo button here, and I can use that to demonstrate this to you. I'm going to switch off my camera for a second in Zoom so I can show you what this looks like here. So I'm joining an online meeting. It tells me about the meeting. Then I land on a device selection screen where I can decide to configure my devices if I want to, mute or unmute my microphone and so on. And then I join the room. So I'm in a meeting room. I can turn on my camera. I can turn on my microphone. Hello again. I've got here the list of participants who are participating in this meeting, once they've joined, of course. I've got live chat if I want to, and the raise hand feature if it's a larger meeting and people need to be raising their hands and so on. So this type of meeting room is completely integrated into the platform. We're not leading anyone to an external resource. This isn't an external URL. They don't need any external accounts, and they don't need to install anything anywhere. It's completely browser-based, and they can share their screen here as well if they want to, of course. Everything you'd sort of expect there to be. So this is completely browser-based. The technology is that of Amazon Web Services, but the user experience side is entirely native to our platform. So they're still very much within the event for all intents and purposes. So this is one format in which we can deliver meetings. You can use a very similar format to deliver sessions. So if we're talking about, for example, a breakout session where you may have multiple speakers, but also you want your participants to be able to raise their hand and speak out via voice chat, that is also possible. And that format supports a moderator or multiple moderators who can decide who should be muted or unmuted, much like on Zoom. And they can decide to enable or disable microphones for people and so on. That format supports up to 250 people currently. The other format in which sessions can be delivered, which I'm about to show you now, is a format that allows live streaming or pre-recorded video playback. So this is a session here. As an example, I'm gonna, because it's happening in 14 weeks, I'm gonna use my join demo button to join it. So what you will see here is the experience that one could have in a online session. So here you can see that this is very similar to what we saw in the meeting, and that's by intent. You've got the list of participants here, which you can enable or disable counters for if you want to show how many people are joined. You've got live chat like we had before, the raise hand feature. You can also have content. So any documents that are uploaded by the organizer or speakers into the session will be available here. You also got a Q&A section where questions, this is a moderated Q&A where anyone can submit a question. They can submit it anonymously if they wish, and the moderator will accept it into the pool of questions that are shown to everyone or reject it. And then speakers or moderators can answer those questions if they wish. And then we've also got polling. There's no polls currently in the session, but effectively you got a polling kit here that allows either the moderator or the organizers to set up polls ahead of time and on the fly and run them and kind of show the results here. So these are the features of the session. So speaking about the video, how does this work? What this is on our side is essentially just an embed code. So you can record a session and put it in any platform you like. You can put it in YouTube, though we don't recommend YouTube typically, but let's say Vimeo, which is a highly recommended service. You upload your pre-recorded session into Vimeo, and then you put an embed code in our platform, and when people join, we can actually make it so that the video starts playback at the moment when they join. So if they join the session 10 minutes late, the video will start 10 minutes late for them and they can't rewind it. And that's something we call SimuLive. The other option, of course, is to live stream it. And this is also something you could do with Vimeo or many other platforms out there. You live stream into a platform, we take the embed code, and obviously that experience is completely live, essentially. So this is what that would look like. I can play the video here for you, but I think you can all imagine what this is going to be like. So that's the sessions meetings aspect. I will also quickly show you what we've got for the sponsorship side. So let's imagine that you have multiple sponsors at the event who are also exhibitors for you. We have an exhibitor page here that is searchable and filterable. You can have various search filters and so on. And this page also has various sponsorship opportunities on it. So aside from the banners that you see in various places on the platform, so here you saw some on the sessions page, there's some on the delegates page and so on. And here there's the banner space. All of those can be sold to either sponsors who are exhibitors or sponsors who are not exhibitors. And all of that tracks statistics about impressions, unique impressions, and clicks for all of those. But we've also got something here with the gold border. This highlight with the gold border, that's a sponsorship opportunity where this result is showing up higher than it otherwise would for this search query, whatever that query might be. And of course, if I click through into the profile, you've seen what happens as an example. So this is the search aspect. We also have a delegate page where if you wanted them to search for each other, they can. It's searchable and filterable. We've got a speakers page where they can speak, where they can search the speakers and filter them as well. And we also have a sessions page. So this is, and again, sponsorship here. This is where they can see what sessions are happening. If it's a single track event, this is the view you would probably go for. If you've got a very densely packed agenda and it's multiple tracks, then we've got a calendar view that is probably the better option to go for. So this is the calendar. These are the tracks here. You click on one of the tracks and you can see what's going on within the session. Again, sponsors in sessions. You can click on one of the speakers and go to their profile or moderators. It'll tell you who they are, add the session to your schedule. If it was an online session, I could also join it when the time is right and when it's running. From here, I can add it to my schedule and be reminded to join it, essentially. So we also have an on-demand section that you can put on-demand content for. So let's imagine that you run a session on the days of the event, and then you want to make that session available for another, let's say, a month for those who've paid to access the event to keep being able to view. You can also do that, and I can show you that in a second on an example of a real event. One of the other things I want to show you actually quickly is the matchmaking section, which I didn't show you in the beginning. So what this is, so you saw the recommendations. Recommendations is the way to get personal recommendations of different kinds of objects to get you to interact. The matchmaking sections is there specifically for showing you who you should meet with. It's configured in this instance to show you just exhibitors, but it's also configurable to show you just attendees or just speakers or whatever. You can configure this section to match to whatever type of visitor or company you wish here. Everything here is interactive as well. So these are the categories of interest that we match in, the matchmaking message they've left about themselves. If I click here, I go to the profile. I can say that this isn't a relevant result for me. I can favorite it, meet, or message. One thing to mention about our algorithm that I mentioned at the beginning is that it learns as you interact. So we have positive and negative interactions. A positive interaction is obviously a visit to the page, favorite, meet, or message. And a negative interaction is ignoring a result or saying it's not relevant. So if I were, for example, to scroll down here and positively interact with this result, everything higher would get a slight markdown in terms of the categories of interest for this person. So that's how this algorithm learns. So I'm done with the user side for the moment, from the attendee side. I want to show you a little bit on the exhibitor/sponsor side. Because one of the very important things at an event is providing your exhibitors and sponsors value. And generally what you want to be doing is demonstrating that value. It's one thing to say you're going to have access to all these great people coming to my event, but it's completely another thing to actually allow them to see what that is. So exhibitors have access to a dashboard here. So this is the dashboard for an exhibitor. Again, they get a breakdown of meetings. They get a little bit of statistics about how much interaction they've got on different types of pages that they have, products, and so on. And they have a completeness system here. So we track how complete is their profile and try and get them to complete it. And we have success rates of completion for sponsors and exhibitors that is upwards of 90% at the moment, which is quite good. They can also share their profiles on social media to advertise your event for you and so on. The interesting part of this is this dashboard here. This captures in real time the interactions that are happening on my profile. So I know that, for example, Peter Hamilton here has favorited my page at some point and has viewed these specific products here. And I can then go and reach out to Peter Hamilton. I can click on him and see who he is here. Okay, so I can see, the standard information, first name, last name, job title, company name, what he's looking for, favorite and message buttons. This category of person has been disabled for meetings, so I can't meet him. Again, this is just an example. And then I have the dynamic part of the card. So this part of the card is dynamic. And you can output whatever information you like here. For example, qualifying information that will make a person or a sponsor decide, is this an interesting contact for them? Should they connect? Or were they just browsing and they're not really interested for you? So this is one of the ways in which we demonstrate value to sponsors. The other way, of course, is that everything that you saw on the dashboard here, banner stats, pop-up stats, there's a lot of customization options that I'll cover in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Lots of monetization options that exist for sponsors, and they can track statistics about these accurately, or you can track them for them. I'll quickly show you how they can add products there. So exhibitors can add, so this is an exhibitor, they can add products to the catalog. These products are browsable and recommendable, and everything is relatively easy to do. So I've clicked edit on one of them, but you can also create a new one. So you can add up to 5 images to a product, tag it with the product categories here that have been set up, and then add a description, add a video if they wish to each product. They can add a video or an embed code of a video or anything else really. Yeah, and that's it. The product is good to go. So the other thing I haven't shown you yet is that there's a messenger. So this is a real-time messenger where you can exchange messages with anyone that you come in contact with, if you're allowed to do that, of course. So I think this is probably the main aspects of the product that I wanted to show you. Exhibitors can edit their team members and set restrictions on the times of meetings and so on, but I don't want to go into the details of this now, as this is meant to be more of a kind of overall cursory look at what we've been doing. What I'd like to do now is very briefly, let me show you an example of a site before I move on to the monetization. So this is a show. This is a show called Global Gaming Expo. This is a real exhibition show. What they've done here, they're using our CMS here, and I just want to show you what I meant about the on-demand section. So this is their agenda, educational agenda, and so on. Now the on-demand section works like this. So I have my tagged and categorized and searchable sessions that are pre-recorded and are watchable on demand. So you can see that this is available until the 30th of October. So if I click watch here, it'll open up the session for me, and I'll be able to watch this video in my own time, whatever it is. This is the idea behind on demand. Right, that's a live example for you. Right, now what I'd like to do next is briefly run through the different options for what we can monetize at the event and why. So there's different categories of sponsorship and monetization available. The first thing I'm going to talk about is sponsored listings and recommendations, some of which you saw. I didn't actually explicitly show you this, but there is a lobby module in our web CMS. What you're able to do is put any background picture or video, and then you can label up different zones to be interactive and link them to anything you like, and then sell sponsorship or space in that landing page or landing area to your sponsors. This has been a highly effective thing that we've seen being sold for really good value, and both for the sponsor and for the organizer. The way it would work in the ideal case, you can link it externally, but in the ideal case, you land on this page as an attendee, you click on a banner and you get taken to the exhibitor's profile if they are an exhibitor and a sponsor. But you can link these things to wherever you like, essentially. Then sponsorship opportunities of outputting sponsors or exhibitors or whatever of those entities onto your landing page. And this is an example of what those can look like. You can see these little cards that are immediately interactive. So from there, I can book a meeting without going anywhere else, essentially. Sponsored search result listings, which is something that I did talk about when I did the quick product demo for you. The next part is if you have exhibitors extending their presence, how can they be more present at the event? So more team members is one thing that can be sold. You can limit the number of team members that each exhibitor has. Why it's important is because if the exhibitor wants to have more meetings at the same time, they need a bigger team. So every person can only be in a single meeting at any given time. That means if I want to have 2 meetings in parallel, I need 2 team members, and so on and so forth. Aside from that, of course, there's value in being able to have all the right people on your stand, so that if somebody's talking about, I don't know, one area of my product or one territory where we're selling things, they can connect with the right person. Limiting products is another thing that is a sponsorship opportunity. Products are actively recommended to participants based on their interests. So it's a highly targeted way of getting attention. What this means is that an exhibitor with one product has less exposure than an exhibitor with 10, because the exhibitor with 10 has a much higher chance of some of those products appearing in personalized recommendations for different people. Then exhibitor profiles can be customized, so they can add a custom background and a banner, and this is something else that can be sold as an upgrade. We also have banner ads, which you saw in several places on the platform. These can be sold to sponsors or exhibitors. We also have, for exhibitors specifically, pop-up, call to action pop-ups on their profile. So this is something that you can sell to them as well. And the way it works is that if I spend a certain amount of time on an exhibitor's profile, a pop-up with a call to action will come up. Finally, there's a couple of things that we haven't released yet that are in the works. It's the featured news posting. So there is a news section in our CMS where you as the organizer can post news. What we like to do is allow the sponsor or exhibitor to propose news articles that you approve that they pay you for. Push notifications into the mobile app or into the website. So there's web-based push notifications on our platform as well, and they also get shown in the notification area on the platform for web users. Then there's sponsorship in the online sessions. So sponsor logos when you add them to sessions. Then again, something that is currently in progress is the ability for sponsors or exhibitors to request to host their own event within your platform. And that event would be advertised on their showroom or their profile, exhibitor profile. And I could join, as a participant, I could join that or sign up to join that webinar or that product launch or whatever straight from there. The way that would work is that they would apply to have this and you would charge them money. And then if they want to list it in the global agenda as well, then you could charge them more potentially. If you just wanted to run a session in the global agenda with their logo and their speakers and the moderators, you can already do that. So we're talking about something here that is more for the exhibitors really. And then finally, another thing we're excited about is pre-roll advertising for sessions. So this is a highly targeted that an exhibitor or sponsor would submit, and it would be shown to the right audience. Let's say a 10-second video that gets shown, and of course you get statistics about impressions, unique impressions and clicks, as always. So that's it. We have stats for various things, but this is really what I wanted to share with you. I don't want to go into more. I think that I'd like to open up for questions.
Okay, so Mykyta, thanks for that. So anyone who wants any detailed sort of run through of some of that functionality, please make an appointment with Mykyta, just clicking on the link, and that will book a session into his calendar. We've got a few questions here. Are there plans to have your first format for more people than 150?
It's 250 at the moment.
So it's 250.
Yep.
So what, that's, just explain for those who came in slightly later, it's 250 yep. is the number for what?
Okay, so we have 3 formats for hosting sessions on the platform. One is, the first format I talked about is, let's call it a breakout format. The breakout format is a format where everyone who joins can potentially enable their microphone and camera, which is a moderated format. In that format, you have a limit of 250 people. If we're talking about a format that we're in now, for us, that would be a live streaming format at the moment. That's the second format. And of course, the third format of delivering content is on demand.
Yeah. Okay, super. So let's say next question. Can you show videos during the meeting? Because in Zoom, it does not work very well. Could you show how to show a video in your platform during a presentation to see if it works well?
I can give it a go. It should. So it's screen sharing, but I'm not sure it's optimized for video. We can give it a try.
So also, sorry, just to say, you're subject obviously to the fact that we're on Zoom now. So that's a little unfair. Maybe the best thing there, the question, or to book an appointment with Mykyta, and then they could show you that live yourself, perhaps on the platform.
That's probably a good idea because we'll be streaming it through Zoom as well.
Yes. Okay. So. Can you show filters for participants?
Sometimes you can. So we have, let me go back to the page. You're talking about the delegate page probably here?
Yes.
So in this page, we do have some filters. So you can, for example, search for them or filter them by countries, or look at who are the new registrants here. But we don't have any more detailed filters. If you were using, so we have hosted buyer functionality, which I didn't talk about at all. But if these delegates were buyers, then there's much more advanced filtering based on what categories of interest they have, how do they answer different questions of registration. There's this more powerful filtering. This page is more of a basic search page, for.
Okay, so you could institute, even if you didn't have hosted buyers, you could still institute that type of more advanced selection, do you think, or? Hello.
Scenario.
Okay.
I think so. I need to do that.
Okay. So also, can you select here maybe you want to select here who you want to meet, and then sure. and then you want that list for you to enable to try and sort of get in touch with them, because if you come back to this all the time, you might then you have to do your selection criteria again. You might go off to a session, come back and say, okay, so now I want to try and contact a few. How does that work? You star them there.
Yeah,
yes?
Exactly. You star them. I didn't really talk about this much, but there's a list of favorites. Let me log out and log in as a participant here, and I'll show you what that looks like.
Yeah.
So as I browse things, I can favorite various different objects, and that includes people and companies and products and so on. And that all goes into my collection of favorites here. So as I browse, if I see something that I like, I add it to my kind of basket of favorites, and I can then filter it. So if I want to see who are the other attendees I've favorited, here they are. And then I can go book a meeting with one of them if I want to. I can also see who's favorited me back here. So if this includes companies. So companies and people who favorited me back.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Good. Okay. So next question. What appears in the participant's profile? Can you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to a random one here. So what appears in the profile, there are two parts to it. The standardized part of the card, which is the stop part here. So that has a photo if they've got one, first name, last name, job title, company name. About me is a short matchmaking message that they put in, like tell us what you're looking for or who you're looking to meet. And then these three buttons. This part, and then their categories of interest. That's also standard. This part here is dynamic. So any information you collect in registration, you can output here. Answers to any registration questions, essentially. So you decide what you want to output here for them.
Yeah, so categories of registration, could that be, that varied per event? When you say category, just what's that mean?
Oh, these categories here are interest categories. So this is, let's call them subject of interest. In an exhibition, they'd be called product categories. It's essentially, what is your event about? What sort of areas or subjects are covered? You know, how would you categorize different things?
Yeah.
This is to enable them to say, I'm interested in, I don't know, science fiction books and science fiction films. And you'd have your tree of categories that would say films, books, and then the subject areas.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Excellent. Next question. Can you run a separate language translation function in the live sessions?
So we only take an embed code. So if you use a provider that enables that, then yes. And I know of at least one that does. But you're not streaming directly into our platform. You're streaming into a third party. All we do is take the embed code for that.
Yes. Yeah, I think there are so many of them. I think that's
there's no
the
point
only way you could
that.
do it. Exactly. And there are 16 languages and, some of them or more, so yeah, definitely. Next question. Is there a private one-on-one chat function?
Yes, I think I briefly showed that. But if I wanted to message this guy, I could click message, and that will take me into a private chat here. So I can drop them a message.
Okay. Do you have video call one-to-one facility yet?
Yep, which I showed also. We have the pre-booked ability. We're also rolling out instant what we call instant meeting, I think in the next week or two, where without pre-booking, you can just drop them a link, and they'll jump into a meeting room on the platform here.
Yep. Okay. Can you display city and country for each participant as well?
Yeah, you could output that on the card, just as you saw here. This could, here it is, country. You could put the city there as well, city. In fact, they are there.
Yes, good. Okay, excellent. How many parallel sessions can you set up?
So there's no limit on our side of parallel sessions. I think the biggest we've run so far is about 400 sessions across 3 days, I think. And that was about 30 tracks running in parallel. But there's no limit on the technology side about how many you can run in parallel. The only restriction to find out is if you're live streaming them especially, is do you have a limit on the number of parallel streams that you can run with the same provider? Because sometimes that is a thing. I know, for example, that Vimeo allows you to have 3 streams in parallel. If you have more than 3 streams, but we're talking about live streaming specifically here. If you have more than 3 live streams, then you need to have another account or something like that, essentially.
Yeah, okay.
But excellent. No limits on our side.
Understood. Okay. So just I'm just going to, this is a long question here. In your first format, you said you can split people into breakout groups. That's correct? You showed?
So what do you mean by split into breakout groups? The first format I talked about is a breakout room, essentially, where the format is like a roundtable discussion where everyone potentially could speak.
Okay, so then you would make multiples of those and people would choose which one to go into.
Exactly.
Okay, exactly. So that's how you do it. And then in that case, participants can choose themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. And is there any way to control that? So you decide which group they they're allowed to go into?
So
or not?
yes, there is to some extent. So what we have session visibility restrictions in the platform. So for example, you could make it so that those with a certain attendee type are only allowed to see certain sessions, for example. Therefore, they wouldn't really have a choice. They would either join or not join the next session, or next 2 sessions. Maybe they have a choice of 2, and some would have a choice of 4, or whatever. That's possible.
Okay, so that's attendee type, and that attendee type could stretch to the way you've classified them, or is that, or what ticket they've booked?
That's what ticket they booked at the
Yes.
moment. Or
okay.
you can, I mean, it's loosely tied to tickets. You can have as many categories of participants or attendees as you want, really. And for each one of those, you could have a unique set of permissions for sessions, for meetings, for messaging, and so on, essentially.
Yes,
So
understood.
Yeah.
Okay. And are group discussions by chat possible or not?
So no, this is something we're working on. At the moment, we don't have group discussions by chat. It's something that we'll be adding in the future. The only group, if we're talking about a live group discussion, that is the breakout format, essentially. If you wanted to have a live group discussion, that's a breakout format where everyone can potentially speak, up to 250 people.
Yes.
With a moderator moderating and saying, hey, you've raised your hand, do you want to voice your question, and so on and so forth. If you're talking about like an offline prolonged group chat, really, we don't have that at the moment, but it is in the pipeline.
Yeah, okay, understood. So look, that's the end of the questions at the moment. I've just got some comments to make. I thought that your approach to commercialization was is the best I've seen. And I think that's very important because online people are expecting to pay less as delegates, and it's very tough to get exhibitors, not so tough sponsors, but still tough. And I think you've got the most, you've got a good approach there for people to, to be matched, to see the right exhibitors, and that is an example to me of what you can do better for an online conference than you can do for a physical conference. So, this matching should be much, much easier. If you're at a conference for 1,000 or more people, how can you be sure you're going to meet those people that that match the profile you'd like? It's really, really, really difficult. But online, it should be a lot easier. So I think that you've done a great deal of work there, especially with the AI. Any last comments in the last minute we have, Mykyta?
Yeah, I think some comments in my experience from learnings of the last, since COVID hit. What we've seen is a lot of organizers trying to run the same exact event in the same format that they've always done and try and transition that online. And I would say that that is a mistake on a number of levels. One of them being not considering the possibilities, the extra possibilities that online gives, and trying to squeeze everything into the same format will not always provide a good result. So I think that would be my one recommendation. And the second recommendation and second suggestion I would make is I would say that if we're talking about revenue specifically, which is one of the subjects I covered, it is, and I have concrete examples of this from clients that we work with, is that it is entirely possible to generate a lot of additional revenue just from the sponsorship things that I've shared in my presentation. I know some of them are obvious. Selling banner space is quite obvious, but some are less obvious. But we've seen clients generating hundreds of thousands on a single event just from those, excluding participation for sponsors and exhibitors and excluding any tickets for attendees. They've generated hundreds of thousands in sponsorship value. So I would suggest that it is entirely possible to monetize efficiently. And I would suggest also that this is something that should, if possible, be retained when we are allowed to resume physical component of our events. The online aspect should not be killed off. It should be in tandem.
Yeah.
Those are my final comments.
Yep, no, that's good. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Mykyta, for presenting. Please make an appointment with him. It's a really fantastic system, and I'm sure it could help a lot of us. Okay, thanks so much. See you all in the next session, which starts in 4 minutes. Okay, super. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.